What's going on, y'all? OJ back here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about UFC fighters that my opinions massively changed on because I don't really believe in these fighters anymore for some reason or another. I used to be big fan of some of these guys, but recently, they have been annoying, and it's kind of getting frustrating sometimes. Either hearing these guys yap or just watching them fight in general. I'm going to cover one fighter from every single weight class. Keep in mind, there are more fighters. So, if you guys want to see a part two, leave a comment down below. But without wasting any more time, though, let's jump right into the video. All right, starting off with flyweight. I have Chef Cap over here. He used to be cooking, right? The whole drama with Kaikar France and City Kickboxing, his performance against Bruno Silva, which was one of the most beautiful performances you can watch. When he was fighting Muhammad Makayev and the whole build up to that fight, everything other than the fight itself. All right, I used to be a huge supporter of Manel Kape. All right, but then he started pulling out of fights here, started missing weight here and there. He's been kind of cheating. All right, he has the Israel Adesanya Gyno boob. Uh, He's been cheating in fights as well. He has the notorious Asua Mabayev fight where he just kept eye poking Asua Mabayev nonstop. For some reason, Mike Beltran didn't do anything about that. And he kind of comes off as a hypocrite a lot of the times now because, again, he's talking about, oh, this guy pulled out of my fight when he was talking about Brandon Royval. All right, brother, you are notorious for being a pullout merchant. So I don't want to hear Manel Cap talking about other fighters pulling out of fights. All right. I will still root for him to beat someone like Kai Kara France because I was never really the biggest fan of Kai Kara France in the first place. But I used to think of Manel Cap as a superstar. I used to think of Manel Cap as like the guy to save flyweight, but not really anymore. I got Joshua Van for that. So at this point, Manel Cap, it's gonna take him a couple of performances for me to be like, oh, I'm back on the Manel Cap hype train. All right, now up next we got Chito Vera. I used to think that Marlon Chito Vera was a cool guy. Right, not exactly my favorite fighter of all time, but if he possibly won the belt against Sean O'Malley, I would have been like, hey, good for him. But then he fought with Corey Sandhagen, where Corey Sandhagen basically schooled him for 4 rounds, and then he's still yapping shit to Sandhagen. I don't know why. Then he fought Sean O'Malley, where Sean O'Malley basically bullied him for 5 rounds straight. And then Cheeto Vera, like coming out of the fight, it was like, oh, he was greasing. That's why I lost. I'm like, how did that matter? Like O'Malley just picked you apart on the feet for 5 rounds. And then the Davis and Figueiredo fight happened, which it was a close fight. All right, I thought Cheeto Vera won the second round, but Marlon Vera, rather than talking about, oh, I should have been more aggressive, I could have probably put more action on the flyweight moving up to bantamweight and Davis to Figueiredo. Marlon Vera, for some reason, is like, yeah, if if he didn't throw that axe kick, or it's like, oh, that axe kick landed, and then like the ref took a point, I could have won that. I'm like, no, no, that's not gonna happen. And quite frankly, to me, Marlon Chito Vera, he's kind of a serial coper at this point. All right, it was cool whenever he was talking about the Song Yadong fight and how it was a kind of a robbery, which I kind of get it. It was cool when he was talking trash to Corey Sandhagen, but then he lost 4 rounds, so I guess it wasn't that cool. But at this point now, he's been doing this for so long that I'm like, all right, you're not ranked level, and at least in the bantamweight division right now. And at this point, I don't care if you lose to the next guy up. All right, you can lose to Eamon Zahabi for all I care. All right, maybe you win, maybe you get like a fluke head kick or something along those lines. But at this point, Chito Vera, who I once thought was pretty cool, now I'm very indifferent about. All right, now up next we got Yair Rodriguez. I used to be a fan of Yair Rodriguez's fighting style. All right, his spinning elbows, his crazy kicks, his taekwondo movements. He fought like he fought like Zabit, basically. So, in my opinion, Yair Rodriguez was one of the most fun fighters to watch on the roster at one time. But as of recently, he's not been doing too well. He got manhandled by Brian Ortega. That's just not a good look, right? Brian Ortega's kind of the guy in the rankings that you beat in order to be ranked at this point. And now he's calling for a BS title shot with Alexander Volkanovski, right? As if we didn't see Yair Rodriguez get absolutely mauled by Volkanovski in their first fight. As if we didn't see uh him getting choked out by Brian Ortega, and as if we didn't see him going into an absolute mid off with Patricio Pitbull. Yair Rodriguez also is ducking Diego Lopez and talking about, oh, Diego doesn't deserve a fight with me. What are you talking about? He's ranked above you, and he has a win over a much better opponent recently than who you beat. Like, you beat Pitbull of all people, whereas Diego Lopez is coming off a win against Jan Silva. So, in my opinion, Yair Rodriguez, he's kind of scared of Diego Lopez. To be fair, I would be too. But Yair Rodriguez, you're not getting the next title shot. Quite frankly, you have been looking mid over the past couple of years. You're blatantly ducking Diego Lopez. So now, if the fight does happen with Diego Lopez potentially for a number one contenders fight, hopefully we get to see Yair Rodriguez get fed to Diego Lopez sometime soon. Or either that, like you can just fuck off because I don't really care about Yair Rodriguez at this point. All right, now up next we got Justin Gaethje. I was never really the biggest fan of Justin Gaethje, but I still thought he was a very cool fighter. All right, but recently, not so much. He's been acting entitled to a title shot after beating Rafael Fiziev on short notice, a guy he's already beat in the past. And because of this, he's creating a second logjam at lightweight. And quite frankly, his whole attitude of, oh, if the UFC doesn't give me a title shot, I'm going to retire. Like, okay, then bye. I don't think we need you anymore. We got fighters like Ilya Taporia. We still have Charles Oliveira. We have Armin Sarukian, I guess. We have Paddy Pimblett on the come up. Justin Gaethje, if he wants to retire at this point, all right, let him. I don't really think he's going to beat any of the top guys right now. And we still have killers on the come up that are trying to get into the rankings. So we don't need someone to hold up a ranking spot just sitting there and not fighting anybody. All right. I would love to see Justin Gaethje fight, but because of how he's been acting recently, if he doesn't and he chooses to retire, then so be it. I don't really care. All right, now up next we got Ian Machado Garry. All right, I used to think that Ian Machado Garry was gonna be the welterweight Conor McGregor, and I was hyped for Ian Garry, especially when he got his knockout win over Song Kanan. When he was picking apart Gabe Green, like much lower level competition than the guys he's fighting right now. But still, just the way Ian Garry looked was super impressive to me. But as of recently, not so much. The Neil Magny fight happened where Ian Garry was just kind of being a cunt for 3 rounds. And sure, he was schooling Neil Magny, but he did not take Neil Magny's soul. All right. I didn't see Neil Magny plop down onto the canvas like what Carlos Prates and Michael Morales did. But I guess schooling Neil Magny for 3 rounds means you took his soul, as if Neil Magny was a come up prospect in the first place. And overall, him and his wife, they're just so annoying to listen to. All right. All the whole cuck stories about, oh, I got my wife's ex-husband to be my nutritionist. All right, cool. That's a you thing. All right. Am I gonna be too critical of that? No, but it is kind of weird. And also you taking care of his son and talking about all that and using that kid as a prop to be more likable. Kind of weird, right? But the main thing I really don't like about Ian Garry is he does this a lot. He blatantly lies about the results of his fights. All right. I understand he beat Michael Venom Page. That was not a good fight to watch. And the way Ian Garry beat him was because of the grappling. All right. Michael Venom Page was beating his ass on the feet. But then he's talking about, oh, I wobbled MVP in the second round and I snake charmed the snake charmer. I'm like, you didn't do any of that. All right. You won because you were able to take MVPs back in the first round. And then you were able to hold top position in the third round. All right. You did not uh, destroy MVP. You did not snake charm the snake charmer. And against Jeff Neal, all right, crazy power puncher. Ian Garry coming in that fight talking all this shit to Jeff Neal about, oh, Jeff Neal, he's like DUI and all that stuff. Just to go out there and play patty cake with Jeff Neal. All right. To be fair, Jeff Neal kind of fought that fight dumb. So I guess that's not completely on Ian Gary's fault. But my point is, Ian Gary oversells his fights a lot. And it's like, dude, you're not that fun to watch. All right. Stop pretending that you are must see TV. All right. The only reason you are must see TV at this point is because of your whole wife and son and your kind of weird family relationship, quite frankly. And B, you're just making headlines off being a cunt. All right. Like when you went to UFC 315, all right, you're telling your son to give JDM M&Ms while weight cutting. I'm like, what? Why are you doing that? All right, you're just kind of making controversies, I guess. Which, to be fair, that's good for a UFC fighter, but still, that's the only reason you're relevant at this point. It's not because of your fights at all. Right? If he was like a sick fighter and he was also a cunt, I wouldn't mind it. But it's the fact that he oversells his fights as if he is a superstar in the making, when in reality, his fights are just to watch. Right? I don't really care for Ian Gary at this point. Actually, no, I don't. I despise Ian Gary. I hope he gets slept out by like Sean Brady. All right, I please make that fight happen. I would love to see Sean Brady just poke out Ian Gary, and hopefully we don't have to hear about Ian Gary getting a title shot anytime soon. All right, now up next we got in the middleweight division, Sean Strickland. All right, I used to buy into the edgy Deshaun Strickland memes. All right, when he was dog walking the Chinaman Israel Adesanya, when he was trash talking Ian Gary, when he was trash talking Hamza Chimaev back in 2023 when he won the belt, and Hamza Chimaev had that mid performance against Kamaru Usman. All right, I used to buy into the Sean Strickland hype train. All right, but then he reminded me that, oh, he's not fun to watch at all. All right, he fought Paulo Costa, and that was one of the worst fights I've seen for a co-main event of a pay-per-view. Uh, I remember that's when I was remembering, like, oh, Sean Strickland. Yeah, yeah, that's typically how you fight. I forgot the Jack Hermanson fight, the Nasruddin Mavov fight. I forgot that those fights happened. And now he's just spending more time yapping cringe stuff, right? Racist stuff, sometimes just controversial stuff just for the sake of controversy. Sometimes he's making cringe skits with Nina Drama. At this point, Sean Strickland's living the life of an influencer. I don't really see him fighting anytime soon. I know he's suspended right now, but even after then, like I don't really think that Sean Strickland's really interested in fighting anyone below him in the rankings. And at this point, I don't think that Sean Strickland is that fun to watch. All right, and I don't think his yap sessions on X are all that fun to listen to either. So Sean Strickland, 2023 he was the wave, but 2025, yeah, I don't care for Sean Strickland at all. All right, now up next we got Carlos Ulberg. This guy baited me into thinking that he was this absolute phenom to be on the lookout for at light heavyweight, but in reality, he is the light heavyweight version of Israel Adesanya. All right, when he fought Volkan Uzdemir and Jan Blachowicz, terrible fights, absolutely terrible fights. Now, to be fair, he did beat Volkan Oezdemir, but the Jan Blachowicz fight, it's like, I guess you won. Like, Prime Jan Blachowicz would absolutely destroy Carlos Ulberg. I don't think there's any debate on that. And let's be honest, Carlos Ulberg just, I don't know, he doesn't fight aggressively at all. Right? He just kind of taps low kicks nonstop. Right? The only time you'll ever see him land like damaging punches are like when you walk into a stiff jab or when you like walk into a check left hook. Outside of that, I've never watched Carlos Ulberg like aggressively fight ever. And it's very frustrating because again, I used to think that he was like this phenom in the light heavyweight division. Well, in reality, not really. And that's why I'm rooting for Dominic Reyes to beat this guy. I mean, like Dominic Reyes, like he is kind of on the comeback after getting brutally robbed by John Jones, but also because I don't want to see Carlos Ulberg fight for the belt, right? If Carlos Ulberg fights for the light heavyweight belt, and he beats either Magomed Ankalaev or Alex Pereira. Yeah, no, this division is gonna be completely cooked. Right? People talk about how Ankalaev winning the belt made the division completely cooked. No, Carlos Ulberg winning the belt will be absolutely cooked. So Carlos Ulberg, in my opinion, yeah, he used to be like, oh, you got to watch out for this guy. But after his fight with Volkan Oezdemir and Jan Blachowicz, no, get him out of here. Dominic Reyes, please beat Carlos Ulberg so we can watch you get the title shot instead of Carlos Ulberg. And for the heavyweight division, there's a lot of guys, but I went with Ciryl Gane because again, I thought that Ciryl Gane was a very fun fighter considering he's an athletic heavyweight. Right? It doesn't take much to have fun fights at heavyweight. You just have to be somewhat athletic and like look like you have skills. But unfortunately, that opinion quickly changed. Right? He got folded up by John Jones in 2 minutes, where he literally did not try anything. He fought Sergey Spivak, which, to be fair, was like an absolute masterclass. But then he fought Alexander Volkov, where I thought Volkov clearly won. Ciryl Gane was just doing dumb shit on the ground, like pulling bottom Kimura, going for dumbass heel hooks. Like, I don't understand why Ciryl Gane was doing any of that. It's not like he's a BJJ practitioner or anything like that, or like a skilled BJJ practitioner. Let's just put it like that. So, in my opinion, Ciryl Gane, like, I don't care. Right? He doesn't fight all that often to begin with. And now that we have Tom Aspinall, right, I would hope that Tom Aspinall like puts away Ciryl Gane quickly. All right, Tom Aspinall is going to be the reigning heavyweight champion. Ciryl Gane hopefully doesn't get his fourth, fifth, or sixth title shot anytime soon. Hopefully, the John Jones fans can just shut up for once. And in my opinion, Ciryl Gane at this point, the only reason you would support him is either you're French or you're a secret John Jones fan. Either way, Ciryl Gane, in my opinion, yeah, it's not as fun as you would think. All right, that's gonna be it for today's video. If you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe so we can get this channel monetized. Again, there are more fighters I can talk about, plenty for a part two. So, I don't know. I'll probably release that sometime soon, but I don't think right now. But other than that, though, again, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.